We are going to be strapped with a whole lot of bad football, watching mediocre teams that have absolutely no business in the postseason getting blown off the field by the elite heavyweights, all for our viewing pleasure. They are even willing to trample right over the historic Army-Navy game, which apparently, we'll figure out at one point where we can play this game.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I don't blame David Stearns at all for looking at the team and saying, hey, look, with this high payroll and with all the players we have, Donnie, they have not won anything. They did not even get in the postseason last year. So like, all right, let's break it up and try something new. But their new plan has not worked. It doesn't look good on paper. It doesn't look good in the standings. Even if the Mets were to play okay the rest of the season, I think their season is a wrap.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
Betting growth was up about 40% year over year in March. So some of that obviously was the NCAA tournament, but a lot of that is because DraftKings and FanDuel were coming to town and bringing a lot of money with them. It was about $87 million was bet in the month of March, which is not only a March record, but it's a record for Arkansas in general. And it was really interesting to note too, DraftKings and
All right, welcome to another edition of Outspoken. I'm Dan Sileo here. And by the way, happy Mother's Day to all. Yes, even to Diana Rossini. Sports going on this weekend. Amazing time. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs going on. Folks, this is one of the best times of the year. Great calendar going on right now. Plus, you got Major League Baseball. No doubt about it. We're starting to find out a little bit more about your favorite team as we're past that 30-game mark. First and foremost here, though, let's get into a storyline here with athletes and sports celebrities. If we've learned anything these last 2 weeks about being a sports celebrity, whether you're a coach or you're someone like Stefon Diggs who was found innocent, you got a target on your back. I say this all the time to folks here, man. I mean, if you're in the public eye, remember, you may not think people are watching you, but the public is watching you, and they have their eye on you. No matter who you are, athletes and sports celebrities have a target on their back, just like you see with Hollywood folks. Listen, this is a kind of time right now where the money in sports is so enormous. And if you're a sports celebrity, you've got to watch what you're doing and who you're with, even the company that you keep. This is no longer in an age where people don't care about your personal life. That's one of the things that sells a lot of newspapers. Look at the New York Post. They're getting more hits on this Rossini and Vrabel story than any other sports story they've had all year long. Make no mistake about it. When you're looking at what we're watching over these last 2 weeks, we are seeing nothing but TMZ type of stuff here. And if you're a sports celebrity, look at Mike Vrabel. You know, I was asked a question prior to the show starting. Mike Vrabel's over at rookie camp. Why wouldn't he be? But you have paparazzi there watching him every single move he makes. And if you're all these athletes, listen, I'm not exonerating any athlete and saying that athletes and most athletes are not superstar people, but there are some athletes that are not. And again, I am not absolving these guys from bad behavior. All I'm saying is that you've got a major target on your back nowadays because you are in the public eye. We've said this before. The television ratings right now for sports is over the top. Of the top 100 TV shows, 96 were NFL games. Well, these guys are now becoming superstar television people. You're in the public eye more than TV people used to be back in the day. Sitcom people used to be the big stars. Now it's athletes. You know, the case with Stefon Diggs in Boston, was on television. People were waiting to get a verdict on whether or not he was going to be found innocent, and he was. By the way, he was completely exonerated by a court and by a jury. So again, when you're in the public eye like this, you got a target on your back. And again, it is not sitting here saying that athletes are absolved from poor behavior, because we know that there's athletes with poor behavior. We see it all the time, just like anybody else. But in today's landscape, how do you not have a target on your back? Look at the money that's being generated with all of these athletes today. We're talking about quarterbacks making north of $60 million. You got basketball players that are making north of $70 million. All the athletes today, we live in a different era today. We live in a social media era where, guess what? Anything you do off the field, ice, diamond, and court, are going to be blown up to be a story that people are interested in. Listen, I'll say this again to you. People don't post things unless there's an interest. This Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini story has been one of the biggest stories that we have seen in sports off the field. Mike Vrabel can't go anywhere. He's treated like he's a paparazzi guy now. The New England Patriots haven't posted a picture of Mike until this one here, April 25th. You have a target on your back, and you have to know this. We live in a different era, and you are going to be front and center, especially when we're talking the kind of money that we're talking. Athletes and coaches and managers, guys, it's not like it used to be back in the day. Make no mistake. We look at today's athletes. We look at today's sports world. Television networks, at the end of the day, they can't survive without sports. They just can't survive. There's no way you survive without sports. And this is why TMZ type of stories are becoming so prominent, especially when you see newspapers posting a story like Diana Rossini and Mike Vrabel. Again, you got targets on your back, and make no mistake about it, you're front and center. Your behavior on what you do on and off the court, it now matters. And this is why, again, we live in a different age. All right, so let's go over to one of the greatest managers of all time in Bobby Cox. I'm going to make a comparison to him. I'm kind of a baseball historian, and one of the greatest characters of all time and one of the most beloved managers of all time was Casey Stengel. Bobby Cox is the modern-day Casey Stengel. 14 straight division titles, National League East crowns, 5 pennants, a World Series, a guy who was the standard in Atlanta. John Sherholtz, the former president, said, we would be nothing without Bobby Cox running and how he ran the Atlanta Braves. 2 icons for the Braves pass away in the same week. It's kind of really poignant when you look at it. Ted Turner, who ended up buying and bringing the great Bobby Cox to Atlanta. He owned the Braves, of course, and 2 of the greatest icons in Braves history passing away this year and this week. It's incredible. Bobby Cox, without a doubt, one of the most charismatic guys of all time, too. The record for the most ejections of all time. And you saw the outpour from everyone, all publications, all places, every single Major League Baseball team, the Washington Post, everyone loved this man. Bob Nightingale had a great column, too, about the man who he loved and he admired the most when you're talking Major League Baseball. There's very few guys that were able to do the things that were, when it came to winning, that Bobby Cox did. That tremendous pitching staff that he had back in the day, those great players, the benchmark of how you built a baseball team with pitching and great defense. There's no question Bobby Cox goes down as one of the greatest managers of all time. How he ran the Atlanta Braves. You know, I had a conversation with Greg Maddux a couple years ago, and he said, make no mistake about it, Bobby Cox was a guy that was the calming force in our dugout. Every time that there was an issue or a letdown, think about this too. Many people will look back and go that the run of the Atlanta Braves was underachieving. 14 straight National League East division crowns, 5 pennants, a World Series. People would say that they should have won more. Bobby Cox is truly one of the greatest managers that's ever lived. You know, you've got people like Joe Torre coming out. You've got everyone talking about the impact that he had on the game of baseball. It is so hard to lead men. It is so hard to also make sure you can guide men like that. And Bobby Cox, without a doubt, truly one of the greatest managers, and I compare him to the late, great Casey Stengel. Stengel was just a character in baseball's history. Ran the Yankees and obviously was the Mets' first manager. And when you go back and look in the history of baseball, you will put Bobby Cox's name as truly one of the greatest managers in the history of the sport. There is nobody that ran a clubhouse as well as Bobby Cox. Plus, getting into an umpire's face, I wonder what he and how he would handle the new ABS system of today. But what a great, great manager. And again, baseball lost an icon in the same week that they ended up losing the great Ted Turner, who ended up buying the team and bringing him in. All right, let's go to our friends here at Morgan & Morgan, the number one injury law firm in all of America for a reason. Folks, they started this business over 30 years ago. Ultima and John Morgan, make no mistake about it, family run, family owned. I tell you about the family in Pennsylvania, $650K, they got nearly $30 million in settlement. Or the family in Florida, $350,000, they ended up getting $12 million. Go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sales sent you. Man, we got a lot to get to here with Cam Stewart. A lot of hockey and also some golf. We are going to hit on that with our friend next. You keep it right here on SportsGrid. I love talking sports here with Cam Stewart here, and let's start it out here. First and foremost, we were talking a little bit about Bobby Cox, and you being an old Jays fan here, I mean, impact that he had, because then Cito Gaston comes in and takes over for him, but that's when they started pouring the cement, isn't it, on that organization becoming a force in the American League.
Great call, Dan. No, Bobby Cox, one of the characters of the game, and you said it, one of the best. And the Jays, when they came in there, you know what I mean? And back then, expansion teams didn't do very well, but when Bobby Cox came in, things started to change for this organization. It was just a trajectory up, 82 to 85. People still remember Bobby Cox as the man that started it. And then Cito came in, Cito Gaston. Jays get their two World Series, one against the Atlanta Braves and the other against Philadelphia with that memorable Joe Carter home run off Mitch Wild Thing Williams. But I'll tell you, as a kid, that's when you love sports. Like that was the frame between the age of like 6 and 10, I'm thinking, you know what I mean? Going to every game, loving it, watching every play, reading every stat in the newspaper, like getting right into it. And Bobby Cox was a real catalyst for the Jays to become a better team. You couldn't say it any better than that. Wild guy, respected, cool personality. This guy brought everything to the table, Dan.
So you were in the Buffalo barn the other day for the Canadians and Sabres. Tell me about it, man. How was that place? That must have been off the chain.
It was unreal. Like I remember, like we stepped in and went to we usually go to this bar before the game, and it was standing room only. Sabre fan and Montreal fan are actually hanging out with each other and talking, and I couldn't believe it because I'm used to going to Leaf playoff games, and they got Senators fans and chokeholds and stuff like that. It's like the Buffalo Sabre fan and Montreal fan, like it was just a respect. It was a respect fest. I couldn't believe it. That barn was absolutely jacked. And this is the thing about the playoffs. Buffalo is a very, very young team, as you know, Dan. Montreal, they had a very good game plan. They shot from everywhere, all angles. Their centers were all over these guys, and they got up 2-0. They rattled Buffalo, and after that, the game was over. What happened in game one? Buffalo jumped all over Montreal. So I guess we're talking tonight is going to be very, very important. Let's remember one thing. The Buffalo Sabres, the road warriors. That Bell Center in Montreal is going to be absolutely off the chain. Like I can't even, if I'm thinking Buffalo's good, Dan, Montreal is the best atmosphere in the National Hockey League. I don't even think it's debatable. So the Montreal Canadiens are going to come out. They're going to be nervous, but also they're going to be going wild in the first 5 minutes of the game. You know hockey. If the Sabres can weather the storm, beat them on the counter, and get a goal, they'll be good in this game. But if Montreal comes out and pops in a couple with that building, the Sabres could be in big trouble. Great game. Game one, Buffalo dominated. Game two, Montreal dominated. We'll see what happens. But the Sabres seem to be a better team on the road because they're young. At home, they try to do too much. I was watching. Their power play was awful. They passed the puck too much, and they didn't do the little greasy things that Montreal did. Montreal had a great road game plan. They just pounded Lyon with shots and took a big lead.
Let me ask you this, then. When you look at the Canadians, do you agree that I love comparisons, Cam? They remind me so much of those old New Jersey Devil teams that they just play at every single level when it comes to their blue line, their forward, everything. I mean, their goaltending, obviously. That is just a well-oiled machine right now that St. Louis has here. They beat you in waves, right? Is that how he has built this hockey team here? Because against the Lightning, man, every shift was great. And we kind of see that here a little bit with this team. I don't think they're more talented. Or do you think they're more talented than Buffalo? Because I don't. They're just gritty.
I'm going to tell you, actually, I think it's almost a push, and I'd give Buffalo the edge there. But the difference is Montreal knows how to play on counters. And the things that they do things that are like the playoff hockey is one of these things. I used to have a coach, and we got along great. He goes, Cam, you're the garbage man. Get in front of the net. Any greasy goal, Dave Andrechuk style, you want to hit me in the head? I don't care where it goes in. If off your ass, off your leg, anywhere. And I'm watching Montreal play, and that's what they do. I know they try to set up some plays, but they also shoot from every angle, Dan. And I'm watching Buffalo. Everything has to be so damn pretty with them. And that's a problem in playoff hockey. We've seen goals from center ice with weird bounces. We've seen all sorts of things. What do? You score, you shoot from every angle. Stop. And another thing about the Sabres, this power play, what happened to hockey when these guys are going backwards before they go forwards? You know that drop pass? It never works. And the other play, the pass across the ice and the slap shot, the goalie's just sitting there going, thanks, man. I already see where you're going. That's the whole thing. The Sabres were very predictable. And Dan, I got to tell you this. I had right behind the net, I watched Dobish. This guy's nuts. This Montreal Canadiens goaltender, people don't see it. I saw it live. His little warm-up, he doesn't skate to the bench like Lyon and these other guys. He stands in the Buffalo Ice team right in the middle of them, and he's doing all sorts of moves and like hitting himself in the head and like his little routine. And the thing about him is they say goaltenders, they're either the biggest psycho on the team or quiet. He's the biggest psycho, but a talented one. And I'm going to tell you, you got to get to this guy early because once he gets in his groove, he's almost unstoppable. Watching him live was like a pleasure in itself. I'm like, man, this guy has some weird tendencies. And I was sitting beside a guy who was a goaltender. He goes, this guy's routine is wild, but he was absolutely fantastic in game two. Should be a thriller tonight, Dan. I love this Montreal and Buffalo series. It's wicked.
Tell me what this wicked record of Carolina is. They're 8-0 in the playoffs. How good are they? Are they as good as that 8-0 record?
Yeah. And this is the year, too. Remember, Carolina always used to have those tough games and go through a tough team like Florida, Tampa Bay. They got a nice path this year. Like, no offense to the Philadelphia Flyers, but they're the worst team in the East heading into the playoffs. They got in a nice little run at the end, and now you sweep these guys. How hard it is to sweep a team in playoff hockey? It is almost impossible, Dan. And that's the thing. They get down early, they fight back. Brind'Amour is doing a good job. And the thing about them, too, Frederik Andersen, I know this guy really well, as you know, being from Toronto. He got maligned, basically thrown out of this city. He can't win a big game. He's horrible in the playoffs. Well, I think he's doing quite well. And that's the beautiful thing about hockey and goaltenders getting a second chance. I think Freddie Anderson's great. They like to play in front of him. And Carolina, Dan, we talked about this last week. People look at Colorado. I think Carolina can win the Stanley Cup. Like, I think they're that good, right? And we said it, watch out for Minnesota. They're down 2-0. They came back in that game. Now, I don't think that series is going to be as easy as people think. And one more for you, Dan. I love to bet on teams that got smoked the game before. Mitch Marner in Vegas, they embarrassed the Anaheim Ducks. Quack, 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 quack. I'm telling you, I'm riding with the Ducks tonight. I think they can get it done at home against Vegas. Sometimes losing by a lot of goals is better than losing in overtime. It resets your button, and I think Anaheim comes out guns a-blazing tonight.
Man, they just seem to be a different team with Tortorella running them. I mean, I don't know, accountability. He is really doing a great job, and I agree with you with that Buffalo and that Buffalo series with the Canadians and Colorado and Minnesota. Minnesota put the wood to them. Man, that's a good-looking hockey team. All right, so we're going to switch gears, and we're going to do some golf, and we're also going to talk a little bit of Major League Baseball with Cam. We will do that next. Keep it right here on SportsGrid. We're just talking so much hockey here, too, but we got to talk the other curve stick, and that's golf here. And the Truist going on right now. What do you like in this tournament here? Your boy Cameron's right there again. He's at the top of the leaderboard. He's had one of the better starts to the PGA season this year, has he not?
Yeah, sure has, Dan. I got money on Nikolai Højgaard at the start when we gave our picks with Donnie and Joe Ranieri on Wednesday. He's 50-1. He's 4 back. But let's talk about Cameron Young. This guy is one of the best golfers in the world right now. How did it happen? He finished second a lot. He finished third, and then he finally broke through. Then he wins at the Players, and now look at him. Every single week, this guy is an absolute machine. He has the confidence now. And what is happening? The flat stick. We all know Cameron Young can murder it. Like, he could put it in play. He hits it big and long. but the putting has always been a weakness. You know what I mean? But now he's hitting those 8-footers for par. He has confidence. So I'm looking at Cameron Young. I think he might be a threat at the PGA Championship this week as well. He is great every week. Another interesting story, Dan, it's interesting in golf. A lot of guys are like, Alex Fitzpatrick, I'm not sure if he should even be on the PGA Tour. How did he get there? He wins with his brother in the Zurich. Matt Fitzpatrick and Alex Fitzpatrick, final hole, they win. So he gets exemptions. He gets to play on the PGA Tour. This guy's leading the tournament now, and he played great last week too. This is the thing about golf. Once you get a little bit of confidence, this kid was ripping it up. He already won on the European Tour this year, and he's good. It's a good quality of golf. So now he's the guy catching. Will he be able to close the deal? That's the question. There's a lot of quality chasing him. Højgaard, Cam Young, you know what I mean? And this Chris Rattan guy from Norway, he's been on the leaderboard the last few weeks. So this is going to be a great tournament. And it's nice to see Justin Thomas back too. That's my girlfriend's guy. She's like, what the hell happened to Justin Thomas, Cam? I'm like, I don't know. He used to be like always in the mix. He's 9 under. I know he's 5 back, but it's really, really nice to see Justin Thomas play good golf. He hasn't been able to put 4 rounds together, Dan, but I'm going to tell you something. This guy hits it, and he had one bad hole again. He put one in the water. I'm like, if he can avoid those little mistakes, I think he'll be there. But watch out for Justin Thomas. He's finally starting to get that mojo back.
What did you make of the PGA moving up the PGA Championship in the calendar? Do you like where it is? Instead of being the final major of the year every year, they moved it up, and they moved it before the U.S. Open. What do you make of it?
I don't mind it, but the more issues I have, Dan, sometimes with the signature events. Like I talked to you about this before. I think there has to be, they don't feel like signature events to me. But that's the issue that I have with them. But as for this, I don't mind it at all. I think the PGA Championship, when you rank majors in golf, where would you rank it? 4th, right? You know what I mean? So, yeah, you can get it out of the way, right? So you have like either Masters, U.S. Open, Open Championship, overseas in Britain, and then, you have the PGA Championship. It's one of those ones where, yeah, it's a major, it's a great tournament, but it's also, in my opinion, not as good as the other 3. So I don't mind that at all, but we'll see what happens. I can't wait for this live stuff too. Like who's going to come back eventually and play on this tour? What are we going to do here? I knew that tour was doomed from the get-go. You got guys on jets and eating caviar who can't even make cuts. It's like, what are we paying these guys for? It's one of those situations where if you were an older guy, you could take the paycheck, you'll take the bag. But a lot of these guys were not even great golfers when they were on the PGA Tour, and they kind of overextended themselves. But Dan, I will say this. Cameron Young today, watch out for him too. You talked about him. Fitzpatrick has the lead, but the way if Cameron Young gets on the birdie train, guys are going to be in a lot of trouble.
Do you think this is the last year for Liv?
Yes, I do. I already have a bet with a guy. I think Liv needs to go. I don't know what we're going to do with the rest of the players, but Hatton, Rahm, a couple of the other guys, Neiman, Bryson DeChambeau, thank you. I know there's a million of them, but you take like the top 10 guys, we'll figure it out. There's got to be some kind of penalty. It bothers me though. Like I have an opinion of if I worked for a company and said, screw you, and then want to come back to that company, like there's got to be some kind of, mistake pay, like whatever. I don't like penalty. And all of a sudden, like, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. Don't you agree, Dan? It's like these guys told the PGA Tour, see ya, we're taking the bag. So why should they go being welcomed back with open arms?
How about this, Cam? Don't you think they should make them qualify again?
Yes. Except for if you're not on top of the world rankings like the other guys, great call by you. These guys on the fringe, they need to qualify again because it's not fair to the other guys who paid their dues on the PGA Tour and have these turkeys come back and just think they can come on the tour and play. And I'll tell you, hey, man, that's the thing. These guys, they expected to make a lot of money. The ratings weren't there. The PGA Tour is the best tour in the world. And, yeah, they're going to be back on it. But, yeah, this whole experiment with Liv was a disaster from the get-go, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It was a money grab for sure. And some of the biggest names took enormous hits with her reputation. Greg Norman and also Phil Mickelson, obviously taking their hits there too with that. So, I mean, no question about it. You think Phil, real quick, 10 seconds here, you think Phil gets a shot? Or is he just going to be an official starter for the Masters?
Yeah, that's it. I think that's going to happen. Maybe Phil can play on the senior tour, but I don't see him doing much after that. That's
Cam,
about
I
it, Dan.
appreciate you. I'm with you. I'm with you there, man. Hall of Famer, NHL, Kevin Lowe, next here on Sports. Hey, anytime you could say 6-time Stanley Cup champion, and you have your name on that cup. And I've actually had the cup in my hands in my studio before, and it's an amazing, and I think it's the greatest trophy in all of North American sports. And we have a man who's got his name on it 6 times. He is the former executive with the Edmonton Oilers, 6-time winner himself of the cup, as I just said. Kevin Lowe joins us now. Kev, I mean, you're supposed to be retired right now, but surely you miss it. And surely, I mean, you've done so much in your career. Do you miss it? Do you miss being in the day-to-day operations of running a team?
No, actually, I don't, Dan, because I know how bloody hard it is and time consuming, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, I was blessed. I still do ambassador work for Edmonton, and I spend part of my winter there. So I'm at the games, around the action, and that's as much as I really enjoy at this point. But 45, almost 50 years and counting, and I'm still technically employed in the National Hockey League, which is pretty cool.
All right. Well, let me start there in Edmonton. What do you think the future of Connor McDavid is, in your opinion, in Edmonton? How do you see the organization dealing with him over the next couple of years?
Well, that's the billion-dollar question, I would say. I mean, I really believe that Connor loves playing at Edmonton. I know his wife is settled in Edmonton as well. He did a heck of a thing, taking a 2-year deal for the team to give them a little more time. I think this is obviously it's an off year for them. Although they ran up, Anaheim was a heck of a team, and they still might win that series before it's all over with Vegas. But at the end of the day, as an athlete, you have to ask yourself, is the grass always greener, or is it greener on the other side? And where can you actually go to try to win a Stanley Cup? I remember the year that the Colorado Avalanche were already jam-packed with Forsberg and Sakic, and both Korea and Solani went there, and everybody at the start of the year said, well, just give the Avalanche the Stanley Cup. They're going to win it. Well, lo and behold, they didn't win the Stanley Cup. So that's kind of my narrative. And Connor, I think at the end of the day, he's going to stay in Edmonton. By delaying a long-term contract, it gives him an ability to, with the cap going up, to earn even more money when he does sign his next deal. But there's no guarantees. Fingers crossed. Team performance is going to go a long way. So time will tell on that billion-dollar question.
Let me ask you, because I've asked Wayne Gretzky this question too. Wayne said if he had to do it all over again, now the money obviously with the Los Angeles Kings back in the day was enormous for him, and that was really the driving force. But Wayne has said it, and you're so close with him. He said his biggest regret was leaving Edmonton. He didn't really want to leave, especially that team that was so packed back with you guys there when you guys were there. I mean, do you think that conversation has gone on with Wayne and himself as well? Because I've heard Wayne say the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Well, Wayne did exactly what he should have done at the time. Not disrespecting our former owner, but they weren't paying the guys as much as they should have, and by then league salaries were known. So really, it was just a matter of not, the owner in Edmonton not stepping up and paying, Wayne, and then eventually Mark and Paul Coffey and all these guys that had to leave. What Wayne did was he grew the game immensely for the National Hockey League. I mean, it's more popular than ever, largely to do with the fact that Wayne went to Los Angeles and did what he did in Los Angeles. But having said that, from Wayne's perspective, if he has said that to you, I imagine it's really just the point of, how many cups would we have won? Could we have won another couple, 3 cups? And I think that's probably his only regret.
I'll tell you this, and that leads me right into this. I mean, Kevin, do you think we'll ever see a team like, people don't remember, you guys beat a 4-time Stanley Cup champion Islander team who went to their 5th cup finals in a row. And the year before, Wayne told me that, we heard those guys in the locker next door after they were winning, nobody was saying anything. They just had been there. And how important was that series and what you guys did? A couple questions off this here. You think we'll ever see a team like that Edmonton Oilers team ever again with Messier, Coffey, Tikkanen, you, all those great people that you had on? You think we'll ever see that again?
Yeah, Curry, Eric Curry, and Grant Fuhr, and I'm missing others. Never say never. I didn't think anyone would ever break any of Wayne's records, and lo and behold, Alex Ovechkin broke the goal scoring record. So you never know. As you know, we're the new style of the cap system came in 2005, 2006. So we're 20 years into it. I think people are finally figuring it out. And over time, I mean, look at this Anaheim Ducks team, perhaps, or what Mike Greer's doing in San Jose. Who knows? They could be the coming of that type of narrative. But it was a phenomenal time. I mean, the game changed quite a bit with the Oilers of the 80s. The style of play, it became a much more offensive game. But really, we're all thankful, and from Mark Messier all the way down to the rest of us that had the privilege of playing with Wayne Gretzky. I mean, we were fortunate to play with him, and we were allowed to grow and mature as hockey players, somewhat in his shadow. But it gave us the opportunity to get to a point where we became good players as well, and then we were off to the races. So I'm hopeful. It's going to be difficult. I see, when you describe me as a 6-time Stanley Cup winner, and when I see kids, and their parents say, this guy's a 6-time Stanley Cup, I said, well, really, I'm a dinosaur. And they look at me and no, not because I'm old, but perhaps you might not ever meet another person that's won 6 Stanley Cups in the years to come.
Absolutely. I don't believe that as well here. And you know what? I know that you're involved with Team Canada. So I'll ask you, because I asked Phil Esposito this question, and he hates the fact that the break in the middle of the season for the Olympic Games. Did you like it?
Well, in our era, we weren't, the NHL players weren't going to the Olympics, but I did have the privilege of working in 4 Olympics for Team Canada on the management side. And my wife is a former double medalist in ski racing in the Olympics. So I certainly understand and appreciate the Olympic spirit and why the players want to play. Having said that, from a customer or a fan base, there's lots of risks, right? The injury, the fatigue on the players, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, as long as the players want to play and make that a part of collective bargaining, I think we're always going to see it. And it's an amazing sporting event. The fact that the Americans won is just that much better for the game of hockey, quite frankly. It's going to continue to grow in the United States anytime you have these pivotal events. And so from an NHL perspective, I think that's good.
Fantastic stuff here. Kev, I want to talk to you about some of the series coming up here and some of these series that are going on right now. I think the NHL is absolutely in a spectacular place right now, especially with what you're seeing in the East right now with Carolina, Rob Brindamore. Holy cow, 8-0. And you're talking about a team right now that could potentially go on and win the Stanley Cup, and also the Canadians in what they're doing. So we're going to talk more with Kevin Lowe, Hockey Hall of Famer. That's next, right here on SportsGrid.
You wouldn't have your ex officiate your wedding.
Do you, Jake? Liar? Cheater? Gaslighter.
So why have anyone but America's largest injury law firm handle your injury case? With over $30 billion recovered for our clients, there's a reason to go big.
Gaslighter, coitus crier, he's got more red flags than a bullfighter's attire.
Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
We are talking with Hockey Hall of Famer Kevin Lowe here, and I found out that Edmonton had a whole bunch of winning going on back up in the day between the Oilers winning all those Stanley Cups and the Edmonton Eskimos with Warren Moon up there. That must have been quite a time up there during that span where you guys are winning. You're winning, the Grey Cup. You're winning the Stanley Cup. That's a lot of winning going on at one time.
Well, it was so much winning that the city put big signs as you entered the city from all directions, City of Champions. The Eskimos won many, many Grey Cup championships, but they were just in the midst of winning 5 in a row. And as I was mentioning earlier, we learned a lot. The Oilers that started in the NHL in 1979, 1980 season, we had the good fortune to hang around with those guys. They were a little bit older than us at the time, well-established professionals. And Hugh Campbell was their coach. I think Hugh was from University of Washington, just an amazing man. His favorite saying to a player when they over-celebrated, after a touchdown, he pulled a young guy aside and say, "Hey, act like you've been there before." And so that was, a lot of those lessons we learned from the Eskimos in terms of respecting the opposition and hanging out as a team and, team first mantra and stuff. They deserve a little credit for the 5 cups in 7 years in Edmonton.
Well, I'll tell you what, you didn't have a bad coach yourself in Glenn Sather, so that's pretty awesome there, too. So let me slide into what we're seeing with some pretty good coaching going on in Carolina. How impressed are you with Carolina and Rob Brindamore and what they're doing? 8-0 in the playoffs so far.
They're just such a consistent team, and I'm sure that's completely attributed to Rod Brindamore. He is noted as an incredible workhorse as a player, respected player, good understanding of the game, good two-way player, and that's the way his team plays. Not to knock what they've done so far. I'd say that, 2 of the weaker teams in the playoffs, and nothing against the Ottawa Senators, are going to be a good team, and the Flyers as well. But we'll see. I think they'll obviously have a stiffer competition in the semifinals, and if they're fortunate, they get to the finals. But they've been there knocking on the door for a few years, so we'll see how it goes. But I think it'll be a lot more difficult. Having said that, the only team where the Oilers in 1988 in the modern era, we went 16-2. So if the Hurricanes go all the way, and win the cup, they can lose 2 to tie our record.
How about this Buffalo in Montreal series here going on? And the job that St. Louis has done here, Kevin, has been incredible with the Canadians. They end up knocking out the Lightning. How do you see this series had what we're looking at here with this series?
Yeah, very similar to the description of Roddy Brindamore. Marty St. Louis, same kind of amazing work ethic, great understanding of the game, passionate guy, both passionate guys. I love the fact that in that Tampa series that they out-hit Tampa. And again, I don't know if there's enough hitting in the playoffs. It used to be one of our golden rules, finish every check possible. And certainly Marty, that's what he had those guys do. And I seen the last game against Buffalo was sort of flip-flop, but at the end of the day, it's all about winning. So nice to see Buffalo back in the playoffs. And, speaking of the Hurricanes, they could be sitting on the sidelines for a long period of time here, because I don't think this series is going to end quick. So, that could be good, and it can also hurt a little bit. I remember I believe it was in 1985, we had 11 days off between the semifinals and the finals against the Flyers. And as it turned out, we lost that very first game because we're a little bit rusty. But at the end of the day, I know the Hurricanes will take the time off and use it the best way possible.
Kevin, what do you make of the impact that John Tortorella has had on that Vegas team? Ducks look like a hell of a team right now, and that's a pretty big hitting series right now. But who do you like here in this series?
And Tortorella has done a good job. The coaching change does work from time to time. And Vegas they were certainly floundering. So they've seemed to right that ship. I'm not sure what happened to Mark Stone. So that could be a big wild card. Anaheim looks like the real deal. I think they're ready to move on. And it's understandable, maybe not acceptable, but you see these young teams, like Buffalo, they played so well in game once against the Canadians and then they lose. So we'll see what happens tonight. The same with the Ducks, those are the learning, those are the lessons you learn as you mature as a hockey team. But Vegas got a lot of experience, so it's going to be a tough series. But I see that as a pick 'em right now, if you ask me.
Kevin, do you think the NHL right now is in a good place? I mean, ratings are through the roof right now for them. They're up like 165%. I mean, you've got it's on TBS now. Turner's making a big investment in it. Do you like where the NHL is right now?
I mean, it's just grown again. I think when the new collective bargaining came in and it made it a shared partnership between ownership and the players. I mean, the game has just skyrocketed. At the time, that there was so much disparity between the top and bottom teams. And now I think you're going to see that, the parity is there. And that's what you want in sport. You don't want, you look at the Premiership over in the UK, the same teams win all the time. That's ridiculous. And a little bit in baseball too, quite frankly. I was a former player. I know that, agents aren't particularly happy with the cap style system, but what it does is it generates balance. And it's, when you do like the job that Patty Verbeek did in Anaheim, take your time, rebuild, Mike Greer's doing in San Jose, then those teams can have a nice long run. And that's great for the game.
Absolutely. And when you look at where it is right now, there's no question about it. Playoff hockey right now is must-watch television. It's just in a great place. Kevin, you always find time for me. Thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate you, my friend.
Anytime, Dan. Really appreciate it.
You bet.
Have a great day.
Got it. That is the great Kevin Lowe. Sileo Stats next. Keep it right here on SportsGrid. There's a crazy situation going on in Philadelphia right now, which is, it's just unbelievable when you watch what you're doing to a former Super Bowl MVP and quarterback Jalen Hurts. The Philadelphia Eagles this offseason have made absolute facelift changes to their entire offensive coaching staff and the approach. They've hired Sean Mannion, the new OC, who's in the Sean McVay tree when it comes to West Coast offense. They've hired a brand new litany of wide receivers. They're bringing in Hollywood Brown. They're bringing in and going out and getting in a trade Dontavian Wicks from the Green Bay Packers. They went out in the draft and got Mekhi Lemon and turned around and got a tight end in the second pick. They are going from what made them successful. Last 4 years, the Philadelphia Eagles are 50-18 with 2 NFC championships and a Super Bowl and a quarterback who was named MVP in the game. What do they do now? They're completely changing the entire offense because they say this and they're telling their fans, we can't win any longer with this style of play. They basically want Jalen Hurts to play like Brock Purdy. They want him to be a West Coast style offensive quarterback. How in God's name can a guy whose skill set is dual threat turn around and try to become a Brock Purdy or a Matthew Stafford? Have you ever in your life ever heard a guy who went out and won the MVP award, has gone to 2 Super Bowls, and asked him to be a different ball player? I mean, this makes no sense. Again, it's like going to Joe Burrow and saying, hey, I want you to play the same style of football as Josh Allen. You're not going to get that same kind of result, and nor would you be insane to do that. Hey, I'd like to see Patrick Mahomes play more like Josh Allen. Put your head in there and run the football. Nobody does that. It's kind of ass backwards in what they're doing in Philly. You've had so much success. Hey, either you believe in the quarterback or you don't. Or is Jalen Hurts the guy that we think he is? He's a caboose. This is exactly what we've been saying for the last 5 years. We said that Jalen Hurts in his time was not going to be a long thing in Philadelphia. And now the Philadelphia Eagle management folks with Howie Roseman and all are saying the same thing. Jalen, either come with us or we're going to move on from you. How in the world are you asking a former MVP in a Super Bowl to play like someone else? They don't want him to play the same style of play. Here, in the last 5 years, the Philadelphia Eagle offensive passing game has been ranked this: 28th, 8th, 16th, 29th, and then 23rd last year. Bottom 10 for the last 5 years. Eagle management and a head football coach, Nick Sirianni, this offseason said, we've got to make drastic and sweeping changes. What do? They fire one of the greatest coaches in the history of the NFL in Jeff Stoutland. They get rid of the offensive coordinator. They bring in all people that are connected with the Sean McVay passing tree. This is not what Jalen Hurts did. This was one of the reasons that he was replaced at Alabama by Tagovailoa, because he could not be consistent in throwing the football. 2026 is going to be a tell-all year for the Philadelphia Eagles and with Jalen Hurts. He is clearly at a crossroads right now. Who would have ever thought that a guy with this kind of winning would be in a position that he would be sitting there and not getting a contract extension? Name me another guy in the NFC that has played the way that Jalen Hurts has and has won as much as Jalen Hurts who wouldn't get a contract extension. You give contract extensions to people like Trevor Lawrence and folks who have never won. Why isn't the Philadelphia Eagles giving a contract extension to Jalen Hurts? It's very simple. It's because they don't buy it and they don't believe it. Make no mistake about it here. This is a tell-all year. Jalen Hurts is either going to elevate the passing game in Philadelphia or they are going to move on in the 2027 season. They got an out in the contract, and if they do it post June 1, they'll be in a position where they can go and maybe take a look at what they're going to look at potentially in the future for a quarterback. Make no mistake about it here. This is one of the reasons that this A.J. Brown trade is now saying there's a contingency on the pick, or it will be 2028's draft of a first-round pick if it happens to just so be the New England Patriots. I've never seen anything like this. The amount of success that they have had has been incredible. And they're asking the quarterback and everyone in the building to change. You're 50-18 over the last 4 years. And that their benchmark and their bottom was 11 wins. The Jets would kill for that. All right. We are going to speak with the legendary Ice Cube next, right here on Sports Grid. You know, this is a great time of the year because I say this to all folks. By the way, appreciate you coming aboard. Hour number 2 here on Sports Grid here with Outspoken. Appreciate you guys coming aboard. You know, all the things that NFL teams do right now as they get ready for the upcoming NFL season, all the stuff they do for the next couple months, this is going to be what you are going to have your football team pay off when it comes to September. All the moves that you make, whether it's the draft or free agency and conversations that you have, there's no question the payoff is in September and in the fall. This is why, again, this time of the year is one of the most important times of the year for you to be able to get your football team ready. And in Pittsburgh right now, make no mistake, what Aaron Rodgers is doing with the Steelers, I think both of the guys, this is appropriate for both of these people. The Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers looks like he wants more money. Aaron Rodgers is holding out a little bit here to see if he could get another small bag before he calls it a career. Make no mistake, folks. Again, the Steelers, without a doubt, have been in a position where they have been one of the truly greats of all time. But now, again, this situation, we'll find out what goes on. All right, folks. Without further ado, I can't wait to bring my friend in here, man. We are talking 9th year now, a Big 3 hoop. And let's bring him in now. The legendary Ice Cube joins us now here on the show here. Cube, I appreciate you being here, man. Can you believe it? 9 years.
Man, it's great to be here, you know, after 9 years of really pushing and championing this league. And here we going into our 9th season. It's pretty incredible.
What was the biggest obstacle for you as you look back on this journey here, Cube? 9 years into this thing, what was your biggest obstacle getting this off the ground?
One of the things was to get um, sports fans to believe in the league and to deliver credible basketball that people care about. And you hear all the complaints that the NBA is getting from their product, and with the big three, it's just the opposite. People love our style of play, and so that's the biggest hurdle, is to get the public to believe in professional 3-on-3. And the second biggest obstacle, of course, is the NBA's clause of their non-compete clause.
Hey,
For us.
hey, Cube. Well, so there's no tanking then in Big Three hoop, then, right? There's no tanking in Big Three hoop.
You get nothing extra for being sorry. No extra advantage to being last or tanking. So, there's no reason to tank. There's no advantage to it. So there will be no tanking in the Big Three.
Hey, Cube, do you feel the momentum in Big Three basketball right now? I know that you're talking about expanding and all. Do you feel the momentum with the league right now going into the ninth year?
Yeah, people, they love the game. They're looking forward to it for sure. Looking forward to the season. Now that we're planted in cities, not just once. So, us building that momentum, building a core fan base in these cities, but everybody loves the Big Three.
Absolutely, man. I love the Big Three. All right, Cube, how would you fix NBA tanking? That's one of the biggest problems right now. Cube, there was a couple weeks ago, where you could have filled 11 rosters in the NBA with guys who didn't play. Is there anything that the NBA can do to try to fix that issue?
I would say that, get anything extra for being last. I know how the lottery works. The worse you are, the better chance you have to get the number one guy or whatever. They should eliminate that. It's like every team should basically get a ball, and wherever it come out, that's where you pick. And that's just it. And there's no advantage to tanking in that scenario. Yeah, will a good team get a good player, a good pick that they really don't need every now and then? Yeah, but that will prevent the bottom team advantage for being, at the bottom of where you're gonna come from. So now you play every game to win.
Absolutely. Here, hey, how impressed were you with the draft going into this year? How did you like the draft? I watched it the other couple days ago. What did you make of the draft?
The Big Three draft was great. A lot of veterans went, which I wasn't surprised. Um, there's a certain style of play in the Big Three. It's not like 5-on-5. And, just because you had a great 5-on-5 career doesn't mean you're going to sign in the breeze. So, a lot of with players they knew and what they can do. We still have thick draft pools, so if players get hurt, they'll be able to pull some new players out the draft pool. But I wasn't surprised. They have to beat Miami 305. We're the only league that makes our champions run it back. No draft picks, no trades. You got to run it back. And so these teams are trying to build a team that can take down the 305. And we'll see what happens, June 20th when they start.
How about this, Cube? You get guys like Dwight Howard in your league, and you're extending brands now. Do you think you're going to see more of this with guys that maybe want to call it a career, but yet you give them the ability to still extend their livelihood and still extend that brand? I mean, are you going to see more Dwight Howards in Big Three?
Yeah, but it's really all up to the player at the end of the day. They gotta want the smoke, man. It's not just a brand like catapult. It's more of you gotta still want to play professional ball at a high level, because it's not easy. It's not called the little three. It's called the big three for a reason. You gotta bring your big game. And Dwight found that out last year. I think he's much ready to, for the style of play this year. And so you got to be ready for that. And a lot of guys, when they're done, they're not ready for that. I'm saying when they're done with the NBA. And then some guys, they call our guys retired players, but our guys are not retired. If the NBA came calling, they're ready to, go to training camp, get on the roster. They're still ready to go. You got to have that mentality to play in the big three. You got to still be ready to go.
Absolutely. Here, we're going to do more with Ice Cube here in a second, but I've got to hit on here with my friend at Morgan & Morgan, the number one injury law firm in all of America for a reason, with over $30 billion recovered. Morgan & Morgan is the number one injury firm in the entire country. I tell you about the family in Pennsylvania. They got initially offered $650K. They got nearly $30 million in settlement. Also, the family in Florida that was offered $350,000, they got nearly $12 million in settlement. Folks, unlike any other company on the planet, family-owned, family-run, do me a favor, log on forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sills sent you. We're going to talk more with Ice Cube here in a second and get his thoughts again. How much of a sell was that indeed to, tell people about 3-on-3 basketball? And by the way, I had an interesting conversation the other day because we told him we were getting Ice Cube on with Adam Silver. I want to tell Cube what he said to him. And we're going to do that next right here on SportsGrid. And we are talking with the legendary Ice Cube here, and no doubt. By the way, John Morgan putting Morgan and Morgan on the courts at Big Three. This is something that we're going to do here, Cube. I know that, again, you have a great family of advertisers. You've grown this sport heading into the 9th year. Getting Morgan and Morgan on the court there, this is a number one priority for us.
No problem. You know, we like I said, we love our sponsors. We usually over deliver for him, and if he wants to be one of them, you know, we'd love to have him. And you know, if you can make it happen, Dan, you know, I know you got all the connections. What's up? You know, we definitely will welcome him with open arms for sure.
How about this, Cube? What was the biggest sell when you had to talk to athletes about 3-on-3? Was that the biggest sell that you had to convince those guys that this was going to be entertaining?
Yeah, and that they was going to be able to play at the highest level, you know, in the buildings that they've played in, you know, throughout their career. And avenue for basketball players. And, you know, doing something cool in the summer. Everybody know the summer is challenging. If you're a basketball fan or a football fan, you know, you're kind of, you know, you're waiting on deck for the NFL to start. So this was the perfect game for the perfect time of year with the players who still, like I said, want to show you what they got. You know, like Michael Beasley and ISO Joe and Lance Stevenson. You know, these guys want to show the world that that they're still ballers, you know, at the highest level.
Cube, are you talking expansion at all in any way? Are you looking at expanding, you know, and having more teams in the league?
Process of selling teams now. We have 4 of our teams sold. We want to sell the other 4, then expand. You know, we're looking at, you know, investments at the league level. Yeah, we definitely need, you know, smart people to help us grow this league into what we be. In stages of this, so you know, it's fun to see it, you know, really start to develop, and a lot of leagues have come and go in this time in these 9 years, and we're still here picking up momentum. I don't think it would be an Olympic sport without the big 3. I don't think you would have the unrivaled league that the female players are competing in would be here without the big 3. So, you know, we have a model that we change in the game, and we continue to do so.
Cube, what's and why has there been so much pushback by the NBA with your league? I mean, Adam Silver, you know, they're kind of taking your business model and making something of their own here a bit, and obviously the influence of having 3-on-3 basketball in the Olympic Games. Why the pushback with the league with you guys?
Personal, you know, I don't think it has nothing to do with business. You know, a crazy man can see that this would work in any way, shape, or form. You know, a lot of NBA owners love the big 3 and would love to invest in the big 3, but because of their no compete clause, which, you know, even the DOJ is looking at, is you know, preventing basketball owners from owning a piece of the big 3, but they can own an NFL team, they can own NHL, Major League Baseball. They just can't own big 3, which we believe is ridiculous. Now we're starting to plant flags in NBA cities like LA and Detroit, Miami, Houston, Dallas, Chicago, Boston. It's crazy that those owners can't have a piece of the big 3.
Cube, your journey has been incredible. With selling vinyl out of the back of a trunk, here you are, you're in movies, you're a legendary rapper, you're owner of a league. Take me back to that 19-year-old kid back in the day with NWA, and you're just getting started. Could you believe the journey that you've been on and where you are today?
So, but I've always been learning to invite myself into that I might not be wanted, so to speak, and do something cool. You know, that's what it's all about. Doing music is great. You know, with our style, we wasn't supposed to so-called be mainstream. We wasn't even looking to be mainstream. We was looking to be underground artists. And so the mainstream kind of came to us. And then doing movies, I wasn't invited by Hollywood, but I was invited by John Singleton. He told me, yo, you can be a writer, you could be a director, you could be a producer. Go for it. Don't wait for Hollywood. So I never waited for Hollywood. And in sports, I took the same route. I wasn't going to be invited by the sports world. They was never going to take me serious. So I made them take me serious with the big three. And here we are 9 years later, and the league is just growing.
Cube, how come Hollywood has you on the outside and you're not in the inside? 30 seconds here. How come you seemingly are on the outside?
I mean, I've always been an independent guy. You know, I'm not from, you know, I didn't go to college, so I'm not from any fraternities or clubs. And, you know, I've been an outsider in the music game, been an outsider in the movie game, and now I'm an outsider in sports. But I'm right at home. I'd rather be an outsider than an insider, I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
So,
Cube,
here we are.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Cube. You always find time for me, man. I love the hell out of you, man. We've been to concerts, everything, and I want to thank you again for being here and doing this. Thank you, Cube.
Anytime. I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. I lost my mother last year, so this is a day that I really think about, you know, not only my mother, but all the mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day. And, you know, we love you and appreciate you.
Thank you, Cube. More.
All right.
Here on SportsGrid next. All right, folks, without a doubt here, the NFL cash register is just humming again. And now, because of the NFL Network being sold to ESPN, now they've got to split 4 games between Netflix and YouTube. What does that mean, folks? That means more money per cable bill that you're going to have to invest if you want to watch NFL football. Think about what you have to go through already. Let's just hypothetically say your cable bill is $250 a month, right? You're talking nearly $3,000 for a cable bill. Then you add this on top of it. You've got to have Piedmont. You've got to have Netflix. You've got to have Paramount. You've got to add all of these other apps for you to be able to watch the premium games with the NFL. So what does that entail? That means you're talking about spending an additional $300 a month just to get those apps for you to be an NFL football fan. There's one thing that's definitely becoming apparent right now. That's that the National Football League is moving towards streaming and moving away from cable television. They are moving away from cable. They are now making a gigantic move towards being on Netflix, YouTube. We're talking billion-dollar deals. This is why the DOJ right now is involved in investigating on how they're affecting the consumer right now with some of these apps. You know, most fans will sit back and go, okay, well, you know, I really traditionally don't watch cable television any longer anyway. Well, we're now starting to see that. I tell folks this all the time. Always watch the NFL and where they're going with money. Stadiums and also now streaming. The National Football League wants to rip up their current television deal with all the major networks. There's even talks that Fox could end up potentially losing their TV package that they have with the National Football League. Let's make this very apparent here, folks. If Fox loses the NFL, Fox will shut down as a network. There is nothing on Fox with any kind of staying power that people tune into. The National Football League, as we said it before, of the top 100 television shows, 96 of these shows are NFL football, and the rest of them are live programming. And now what you have with the NFL going in and asking you to ask for more apps like Netflix and YouTube, this is going to be handed down to the consumer. It will cost you nearly $5,000 a year just to be an NFL fan. It's already on basic cable alone, costing you nearly $3,000. You add these additional apps, you're talking nearly $5,000 on being a fan just to watch your favorite NFL teams. How about this here too? Think about this. One of the major issues that you have here is that you've got to add these apps to your cable bill each and every single month. This is why the Department of Justice is looking on how they're handling and triple dipping communities. You know, many of the communities right now that are looking for new stadiums, think of what they want to do. Let's just use Tampa for an example. Tampa wants renovations to Raymond James. That means they want to pay, and they want Hillsborough taxpayers to fund renovations for their stadium. They want to then turn around and charge you more on the app for you to watch that same football team. If you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan and you are a season ticket holder, that costs you nearly $25,000 a year, counting your cable bill, just to be an NFL fan. How in God's name do you look at this and say, well, the NFL, again, is for the fans? Roger Goodell came out and said, we give 87% of our product away for free. I'm telling you, the National Football League, over the next 3 or 4 years, you're going to see this, a Super Bowl on pay-per-view. I never thought that this would be possible. But now what we're seeing with cable television dying on the vine, streaming is killing right now network television, and it's clearly killing cable television. Look at the scenario that you see with cable TV right now and all of the things going on with your bill. Netflix and YouTube have to now split 4 games. YouTube is already hedging, saying, wait a minute, and they want $1 billion for these 2 games. And the NFL is putting that price tag with Netflix and YouTube. That's why they are making a giant move towards Netflix and YouTube are expected to split these games. Also, think about this for the NFL and ESPN. You think you're going to get any negative publicity from ESPN when the NFL owns 10% of ESPN? That is highly unlikely. We're going to talk some Major League Baseball with Cab Farrar, and we will talk with him about those startup Rays. Holy cow. That's next on SportsGrid. Love talking some baseball with Cab Farrar. He's here with us now. And yeah, I was just talking about pricing people out of their sport. Is Major League Baseball, you think, ever going to get there? Because I say this, that the NFL right now is pricing their fans out. I was told, Cab, that, you guys had no money in baseball. I just saw the Padres sell for $4 billion. And I saw the Rays sell for 2.2 and that crap hole known as Tropicana Field. I mean, money's there, especially with live sports broadcasting.
Wait, and you talk about pricing people out. I tell you what, Dan, I saw this. Now, I didn't fact check this, okay? But I saw somebody post something that it was cheaper to get a Washington Nationals ticket to go to a game than it was to get a Crunchwrap Supreme from Taco Bell the other day. Now, again,
oh my God.
I didn't fact check that, but that fits into what we're saying right now. At least they're not pricing out the average person like what we were saying backstage. I mean, you can't afford to go to Jerry World anymore if you're a normal person. It's like you said, $1,600 just for a family of 4 just to get tickets.
I'll tell you what, I still think the best ticket in all of Major League Sports is Major League Baseball. You can still go to a game for a pretty good ticket right now. And I talked about the Rays here. How shocked are you what they're doing and how their start is to the season? I mean, it's been a crazy start right now for them. And, I mean, Kevin Cash, probably not a shocker, one of the better managers in Major League Baseball. But that's quite a start for them, especially in the American League East. And Cab, they spend $106 million as a payroll.
So the first thing, you brought up the coaching here, like the managing. I have, for the last, 5 to 10 years, I've thought that the Tampa Bay Rays organization does such a good job with their pitching and developing these pitchers coming up. or helping, older pitchers. Let's use Nick Martinez as an example. Nick Martinez is a guy who, as a bettor, I have looked to fade over the years. He's somebody that I look to go against. I didn't see how his last game went, but he had a 1.74 ERA going into that. And this is a guy who is, a veteran. He's been in the league for a long time, and you can still see the changes that this coaching staff is making in his delivery, in his pitch sequencing, just everything. So I love the coaching staff with the Rays, so it doesn't surprise me.
Man, no doubt about it. How about the Cubs? 2 10-game winning streaks so far in the early part of the season. What do you make of the Cubs?
Oh, man. Definitely, you can go Cubs, Braves, Dodgers, easily. I'd say the top 3 teams in baseball here. They got Jameson Taillon on the mound going against Jacob deGrom for the Rangers today. And I did bet this game, and I didn't just bet it once. I actually have 3 bets in it, Dan. I took the Rangers here. I'm backing Jacob deGrom. As good as I just said, I think that the Cubs are. Jacob deGrom has been just an absolute blast to watch. As a pitching coach myself, I don't know if I've told you that. That's what I do when I'm not on screen here. I work with pitchers. Jacob deGrom is one of my favorite pitchers of all time to watch. We've seen him go through multiple Tommy John surgeries. He's gone through multiple injuries. And even though his fastball's down at like 96 to 98 from that 102 mark now, he is still just consistently getting people out the way that he effectively uses his slider and just works the ball up, down, and out. And I like watching an older guy who is losing that velo, who's had multiple surgeries, but still puts that hat on, hops on the mound, and just competes his butt off every single time he gets on the mound. He did get touched up pretty tough by New York last game. 6 1/3 innings. He gave up 7 hits and 6 runs. So I think today against Chicago is a good bounce back spot for deGrom. I took a bet out on the Rangers money line. Okay, no run line or anything. And then I also have Corey Seager over 1.5 total bases at plus 120. And I have Brandon Nimmo over 1.5 total bases at plus 110. So those are the 3 bets on this game.
Cab, do you agree that, you brought up something great about deGrom here? It's almost like the blueprint of what Pedro Martinez did. Remember when Pedro was early in his career and he was just throwing heaters? All of a sudden he had a couple arm injuries and he just became a better pitcher. Is it possible that deGrom's becoming just a better pitcher with his off-speed stuff compared to what he did early in his career when he was throwing those heaters?
100%. And what a great question, the way you framed it too. So what I will say to that is, 9 out of 10 people, if you lose 5 or 6 miles an hour off your fastball, you're done. Yeah, that means you're basically, you're losing it. Baseball's over. But when you see somebody like deGrom who starts hitting their spots, starts sequencing better, they become a better pitcher because of what you said. An example that I'll use, I'm going to go back to Cliff Lee. I don't know if you guys remember Cliff Lee. When he went for those couple years with the Rangers had a guy named, why did I just blank? Wilson. What was Wilson's first name? Whatever. They had the Rangers had a pitcher, Wilson, a lefty in the bullpen. He was throwing 97, Dan, 97, 98, but he did not throw enough strikes. Cliff Lee got in that rotation, started talking with him. Wilson took his velo from 97 down to 92 and had the best year he's ever had in his entire life.
Bobby Valentine said something about deGrom, and he said that if deGrom didn't have those injuries, he said deGrom may have been the greatest pitcher the Mets have ever had, and that includes Seaver.
I think if he didn't have those injuries, it's hard to say the best, right? That's a hard argument. I'd say he is one of the best pitchers ever to throw the baseball. If he didn't have those injuries, I truly agree with that statement. Not just with the Mets,
Anywhere, right? I mean, hey, in the American League, there's only 4 teams with winning records right now. I mean, you know what, Cap? In the NFL, I always tell people this, the first 4 games of the season, that's Liars Month. Are we in the part of Major League Baseball right now where we can make that kind of same comparison? The first 3 months are kind of like Liars Month? Or do you know kind of what you're looking at right now when you're looking at some of these ball teams?
There are a handful of teams that I would say are in your Liars Month right now. And we talked about this one last time. The Phillies are a team sitting at 18-22. I think they have the pieces. I don't understand why they started the season as bad as they did, because when you look at their lineup, when you look at their pitching staff, now their bullpen needs a little bit of work, but the Phillies have the pieces. So I think for a team like the Phillies, it's Liars Month. Maybe another team like the Astros, we can say that too. But for some of these teams, especially these teams that are playing good, like the Cubs, I don't think it's fake. I think the Cubs are genuinely that good of a baseball team. We know that the Dodgers are. We know that the Yankees are. So yeah, for some of these teams, yes, it's Liars Month, but we're starting to get a good picture, guys. It's starting to take shape and take form here. I think the Astros might be in for a long season. I'm not so sure they're going to figure it out.
So Bobby Cox, I have to ask you about Bobby Cox. 14 consecutive National League East crowns, 5 pennants, a World Series. By the way, most ejections. I have to add that in there too. Just your takeaway on Bobby Cox and what he meant to baseball.
Man, when you throw the ejections in there, it's so funny to think about because baseball to me is I don't want to use the word romantic, but I romanticize baseball, right? And when you think about a guy like Bobby Cox, he is the epitome of what I think about when I romanticize baseball. Just a guy that's going to get out there in the umpire's face, right or wrong, he's going to go out there and back his players no matter what happens. He'll go out there even if it's just to boost the dugout, man. And I'm not saying we're getting away from that, but what a legend, man. What a legend he was to watch on the field. I think he will always be one of my favorite coaches to think about going out there and arguing with an umpire. Always.
How about this here? I compared him to Casey Stengel, a modern day Casey Stengel, where you had a personality. Because like you said, we don't see that in the NFL either any longer. I mean, kind of like that, right? Just a great personality and a great leader of an organization.
And it still matters, man. I always refer back to the Rangers, right? But I mean, look at what happened, when you get in 2023, when you get a manager in here that people respond to. It's just, like I said, you romanticize baseball. You think about a guy like Bobby Cox, man.
All right. We're going to talk more Major League Baseball with our guy, Cab Farrar, next. You guys keep it right here on
I know you didn't. Talk! I'm innocent. Got the wrong guy. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Okay, it was me. I did it.
Bringing an owl to an interrogation? That's a power move.
Every time.
Yeah. Hiring America's largest injury law firm for your injury? That's also a power move. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
We are talking baseball with Cab Farrar here, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to bring this up to you. Why do you think it was so difficult on what the Dodgers did this last year? Here's a stat for you, Cab. The Dodgers a year ago are the first team since the Big Red Machine to go back-to-back World Series titles. That's 75-76 in the National League. And now what they're trying to do something that the Yankees did, and they're trying to do something that those legendary Oakland A's teams did in the 70s. Are you shocked? And do you think they're going to be able to do this and win another World Series title?
In some sports, I think that what they're doing right now would be let me think how to frame this. No, I'm not shocked. To answer the first part of the question, I'm not shocked. Do I think they can do it again? I mean, of course. Look at them. They're sitting at 24-15 right now. You just got Blake Snell back in the rotation. I know he had a blow-up start yesterday, but you look at their lineup, you look at their rotation. I mean, they're the best team in baseball. They've got the best players. The one thing, though, that stands out is baseball is one of those games that we all know the worst pitcher can go out there and beat the best team on any given day. And so you've still got that. But it's almost an interesting thing to look at and think about when I say that, because it sure seems like the Dodgers are trying to get rid of that, doesn't it? It sure feels like they're trying to get rid of that feeling of baseball's baseball and anything can happen. We are still there. Anything can happen. Blake Snell can go out and have a blow-up start like he did yesterday. Ohtani can go out there and not pitch well. It can happen. But I think we're leaning more towards the side of the Dodgers are just the best team in baseball, and this is kind of what we're starting to see is dynasties like this.
How do you think they're handling Ohtani this year? You know, it looks like now there's more of an emphasis on him pitching this year, right? I mean, they're not hitting him when he's on the hill. Do you think that's a good strategy?
Yeah, I don't know. So as a bettor, one thing that I did the last 3 years was anytime Ohtani was on the mound, I bet on him because he locked in at the plate. And it seemed like whether it was, in the 7th inning or the 1st inning, he was getting an extra base hit every time he pitched. Whether it was a double or a home run, he was coming through. He was putting runs on the board for himself. And so now that he's not hitting when he's pitching, I get it. I get it. Pitching is a bit more valuable than somebody at the plate. Somebody like Ohtani is, he's Ohtani. You got to keep him healthy and crazy things can happen. You can foul a ball off your toe and it can break your foot. So I do understand the business side of it. But as a competitor, if I'm Ohtani, I hate it.
Absolutely here. Okay, Dave Roberts, your take on Dave Roberts. Here, hey, Cap, I was in San Diego at the time. I was the pre and post game guy for the Padres. This guy was on Bud Black's bench, and they never interviewed him to become the manager of the Padres when they fired Bud Black. He wanted that job so bad, and they never interviewed him. Ron Fowler's guys never went in there. A.J. Prowler, they never interviewed him. Now he's a Hall of Fame guy, I think. Do you believe that Dave Roberts is now a Hall of Fame manager?
Yeah, I definitely would say a Hall of Fame manager. And how about a chip getting put on your shoulder right there? Because we know the Padres and the Dodgers don't like each other. I mean, that's one of my favorite baseball matchups to watch. I like it even more when it's in San Diego. I love watching the Dodgers travel to San Diego. And how about the get back he's got? He's the head of the best team in baseball right now. So I'm sure he's over it, so to speak, but also has a chip on his shoulder.
Do you agree that one last thing on the Dodgers here? Do you agree that Andrew Friedman is a Hall of Fame general manager just by what he did when he was in Tampa Bay and now what he's doing here? And it's easy to say, look, there's an open checkbook that you have with the Dodgers right now, but look at what he did with Moneyball. I think not just the original Moneyball, but they ended up getting to a World Series with him and how they managed their nickels and dimes when he was the GM in Tampa. How do you look at Andrew Friedman?
I mean, it's the exact opposite of this machine called the Dodgers that we've been talking about. It's so cool to see somebody go out there and, have to manipulate the market and have to make the absolute best out of what they're spending. Yeah, I think he's Hall of Fame. I mean, I think we're talking about somebody who changed the way that the draft is. He completely changed baseball when he ran that team. So I think absolutely he's got to be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, can the Mets season be saved?
No, I'm sorry. No,
No,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. It's early. You got 162 games. You got 162 games, but something's off. Are you a Mets fan? I feel like you told me you were. Are you a Mets fan?
No way. You know what? I'll tell you who a Met fan is. A Met fan is a guy who turns his hat inside out every October, turns himself into a Yankee fan. Okay, so there's no way that I'm a Met fan. I root for winners. Okay, so no, I'm not a Met fan.
Okay, so then I won't feel bad saying this, but like if you watch this team, shout out to them because they have at least they won 3 out of their last 5 games. They've started to win a few baseball games. But guys, we're talking about the Rockies and the Diamondbacks. We're not talking about the Dodgers or the Yankees. They're winning games against teams that they are supposed to be beating, but have been losing against this year. No, I don't think the Mets are a team that I expect to turn it around. I mean, they're hitting 224 as a team. They've got a 288 slugging or on base percentage. Their pitching staff looks horrible. I don't see any hope for this Mets team this year. Honestly, I don't.
Are you surprised with the Yankees, what they're doing? Speaking of the Yankees.
Not surprised.
Pitching,
that's
right?
where I was going to go. That's where I was going to go is the pitching. I'm a bit surprised with their pitching. Like you've got some people in this rotation that are under a 2 ERA right now that weren't even on my radar. So yes, as far as the pitching goes for the Yankees, they're surprising me quite a bit. But in that lineup, you got Ben Rice, Aaron Judge, Bellinger. The lineup doesn't surprise me at all. Those guys can hit, but the pitching is catching me off guard.
If you listen to New York radio, you would think Rice and Judge is the next Mantle and Maris. We'll see what happens if they keep rolling that thing through here. Hey, do you see any kind of World Baseball Classic kind of like hangover with the start of the season so far with some of these teams?
Great point. As a bettor, when I go into a baseball season, I'm usually looking to fade hitters and back pitchers at the early part of the season. And I think the World Baseball Classic had some of these hitters more in form, right? It's usually 2 or 3 weeks, I say, before the hitters really get in form. And I know we've got spring training, but it takes actual games, aces on the mound to get in form. So I think the hitters were a bit more in form because of the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, because, you see some of these teams and you're like, the hitters now are getting out of the gate quicker. Maybe that's one of the reasons in the American League you're seeing the guys out there now hitting the baseball. Cab, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for doing this. Our final thoughts here on SportsGrid are next.
Over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
There is a pick tonight that Gabe has that, to some degree, I find completely outrageous. Then I looked at it a second longer, and it might be a really smart angle.
I like to test them a little bit.
I like
to test them a little bit.
I like that a lot.
Oh, you don't know? You don't know this team name? You should. You're in the sports business.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Number one, who asked for this? Nobody, but nobody asked for a bump up in the number of teams in both the men and the women's basketball tournament from 68, including the 4 play-in teams, to 76. And by the way, it looks like it is a near-done deal. ESPN and ABC News reported this morning that's very close to being done. It could be announced by the end of this week.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
I hear people all the time when they send me DMs, and, I hear complaints of sports fans, cable bills and what have you. But yet I have yet to hear this complaint. Hey, Dan, can you do me a favor? Can you see what we can all do here and expand the NCAA basketball tournament? Hey, I'd like to see more mediocre teams in an event. Hey, can we do that so I can watch more crappy sports and more crappy teams in an event? Well, guess what we have going on? And by the way, it really wasn't even a debate. Next year, you're going to have in the 26-27 tournament, you're going to have March Madness go from 68 to 76 teams. Yes, that is starting this coming tournament year. This is insane. Nobody in the world has been advocating for this. Nobody's been asking for more crappier teams to be in a consolation prize tournament. You now made it into a participation medal. No one wants to see this. That would be like expanding the college football tournament from 12 to 18. Why? So I can watch more mediocre football? I'm looking for the best teams that will play for a national championship. I don't want to see the James Madisons. I don't want to see the Cinderella stories. People want the best. No one roots for mediocrity. You know why nobody really in America watches Team USA in the World Cup? Because Team USA stinks. It's like rooting for NC State. Americans don't work and they don't root for 16th place. Why in God's name would the NCAA want to expand? It's pretty simple. More money. The National Communist Association of America, the majority of their operating budget, folks, comes from this tournament. 97% of the operating budget. They make over $1 billion a year. Why not expand it? Nobody's screaming for it as a fan. These are the people at the NC2A that want this. They're trying to squeeze more money out of an event that was absolutely spectacular. I love the NCAA tournament. I think it's one of the greatest events in American sports. But yet you have people constantly always trying to squeeze more money. Look at the NFL. We're talking about the apps. Look at the NFL trying to squeeze more out of the fans. Fans weren't screaming for this. So now it's a participation medal. I mean, all of this is ridiculous. I mean, but look, here's what the NCAA, this is the ESPN college football tournament would look like if you expanded it to 24 teams. Look at this thing here. So I'm looking at more crappier games. I don't want to see the University of Houston in a ball game. I'm not looking for that. I'm not looking to watch Georgia Tech play in a college football tournament. I'm not looking for teams that are bad in the NCAA basketball tournament. I want to see the very best play, and I want to see the drama that will be created with great teams. So let me get this right. Miami versus Indiana. Did that not satisfy you? Or as Maximus would say, are you not entertained? I'm entertained when I watch Miami, Indiana. I'm not entertained when I watch Oregon and James Madison or Oregon and Tulane. That's not entertaining football. And watching bad basketball teams in an NCAA tournament and then turning around and trying to sell it to us that is something that we want. Nobody's screaming for this. This was made for one thing, to make money. Before it was made actually to really crown an NCAA champion. But let's go here with the tournament. Folks, the best team in the country does not win. And when you look at the bracket there, how many people believe the best team in the country wins the national championship every year? That's untrue. It's the hottest team. It's the team that's put in the best region with the best matchups. You can rig this thing to make a team have a better shot at winning a national championship. This is not the best. The hottest team wins the NCAA tournament. It's not the best team in the country. There's probably 6 teams this past season that could have won the national championship. Michigan had the better road to getting to the national championship and winning it. The hottest team wins this tournament. The team put in the best region wins this tournament. And now what you have? Now you have a participation medal tournament. It's not even the best teams in the country any longer. You got teams in this tournament just so that you can make as much money as possible. The National Communist Association, after it again, chasing nickels and dimes instead of giving you the best product they possibly can. This is what this is all about. Going from 68 to 76. It's ridiculous. We will see you next week. Get down the first side.